Hey guys, so in the latest Johnny FC video, he inadvertently shows the bigotry that's happening in Ukraine right now. And I wanted to show you this video. I don't know if he's going to delete this or not, or if he did this willingly, or maybe he did this unconsciously. He left this in so we can see. But they drive by a place with the word Polonezia.
And pronounce. We identify who is Russian, who is no, because of the polunitsa or palyanitsa. Palyanitsa is some kind of bread. We also can't pronounce it. But this is
how do you say it right? What's the right way? How do you say the correct way? Polnitsa.
Polnitsa.
Bread?
No, how do you say the Ukrainian?
Strawberry?
How do you say the Ukrainian one?
The Ukrainian way?
Yeah, how do you say it properly?
Palyanitsa.
Palanitsa.
Yeah, but no, it's look, I will tell you how they say and how Ukraine. For example, we say clearly Palyanitsa, and they say
We say and they say.
Palyanitsa. They can't pronounce exactly one by one that letters. They change it all the time.
Okay, and that's how you find out he's Russian. Now we know how to kill the spies, Johnny.
Palanitsa. I can't say it either, so I don't
Kill the spies.
No, Palyanitsa.
Palanitsa. Palanitsa.
Nitsa, is that right?
No, we're so wrong.
There is E and there is E.
What the fuck? They killed me. I think I was Russian, Johnny. I'd be dead.
I know, you'd be dead. That's why we can't go to the word.
Oh man, Johnny.
And they joke around that they're going to be killed if they pronounce the word wrong. And by the way, this girl has psychotic eyes. Like,
I won that letter.
look at those fucking eyes, honestly. But this is the dehumanizing that's happening in Ukraine right now. And I'll show you a video of a checkpoint some children set up. Just joking.
Що, пацани, слава Україні! Слова які сьогодні, які пароль які сьогодні? Паланіца! Неправильно? А ну ще раз. Полоницо! Ей, все, не треба, паляниця. Фу, ну давайте, я тут живу, добре? Все, дякую, дякую.
Again, Geroyem, Slava Geroyem is a World War II Nazi saying that the Ukrainians that fought with Hitler used to say. So it's a Nazi slogan that they're shouting out. Little kids with a checkpoint to make sure that you're pronouncing your word correctly. Now, why does this? You might say, oh, well, this is just for the Russian speakers. Well, I grew up only speaking Russian. When I traveled back to my city, I never heard a word of Ukrainian spoken. My grandparents, who are actually quite pro-Ukrainian, can't speak a word of Ukrainian. Whereas my parents can. My parents can speak both. And I started to learn Ukrainian in school. But again, nobody in the city where I'm from spoke Ukrainian. Everybody spoke Russian. Because Russia and Russian people, or whatever you want to... I don't know what these people consider us to be. Because we lived in Ukraine. I was born in Ukraine. The people in the East, the separatists, are Ukrainians. They are Ukrainians. But people like Johnny FC, people like this woman here, Western Ukrainians. And I'm angry because this isn't how I ever saw things. As far as I was concerned, I was Ukrainian, and the Russian-speaking Ukrainians always got along with the other Ukrainians. I never saw a separation like this. But Ukraine is becoming more radical by the day, which is why I sort of went through this transition. Because when in 2014, when the coup happened, I was actually posting stuff because I was anti-communist, and you can see some of my really old videos actually confront communists. And I think I probably say in those videos that I'm disgusted by the communist flag that we were parading around. Because that flag it's like a Nazi flag. It represents all the slaughter of innocent people that went under this banner. And I'm not really that down with the Russians, parading that flag around. But I kind of get it now because it's the flag that they defeated the Nazis under during World War II. So for them, it represents a historical point of view. And not just for them. I say them as well, but I mean, like me, the Ukrainians too. It is, like it or not, is the flag that the Ukrainians defeated the Nazis. At least the Ukrainians were fighting the Nazis and weren't fighting with the Nazis, like the Western Ukrainians were, like the Kiev Ukrainians were. So they don't recognize that flag. They don't recognize that history. You know, however bloody, however wrong that history was. And they don't even recognize their own ethnicity. I guess, I don't know, ethnically, maybe some of these are like Austrian or, you know, Germanic, maybe a bit, from when Austria took that part over of Ukraine. But I still think these people are a bit ignorant of their ethnicity. They try to paint the Russian people as, you know, raped by Mongols or something like that. I can't even get into the... when you start getting into the, you know, the white nationalism or the Ukrainian nationalism, it's so fucking dumb. The whole like racist thing is so dumb to me. But it's hard to even think about how they think, how they view things, if you know what I mean. So they have this justification that the Russian people, or whoever is like more Russian than Ukrainian or whatever, I don't even know how they justify who's who or who's what. I think now there's so much chaos in Ukraine that it's becoming indiscriminate. And this is, I'll show you a video now of this girl. So this girl dared to say...
Ты, короче, не собираешься доехать сюда?
So she was just talking to a friend, and her friend mentioned
Да,
that...
я тоже уже надеюсь на то, что, короче, уже захватят нас, и я соберусь и поеду домой, потому что я очень хочу домой.
So she wants to go home, and she dared to say that...
Ты, короче, не
she dared to say
собираешься
that
доехать сюда?
she wanted Russians to basically hurry up and take over the town where she's from. And whether she was saying this in jest, or whether she had some... she had an intention that she really wants Russians to take over or not. But I think it was more of an apathetic thing. And this is the view, by the way, of a lot of people there. Like, I'm in contact with a lot of people from my home city, and none of them are posting Ukrainian flags up. None of them are saying Geroyam Slava and any of this fucking nonsense. They don't care. They don't want the war. They don't want to get bombed. They don't want to die. But they also don't want to fight for whatever Ukraine has become. Because they understand how radicalized Ukraine is becoming. The Russian-speaking, the ethnic, whatever, I call them ethnically Russian Ukrainians. But I still consider myself Ukrainian. I'm a Russian-speaking Ukrainian. I don't know what these people consider themselves to be. I no longer identify with them. When the coup happened, I knew Crimea was 100% Russian, by the way. Like, they are Russian. They're not even Ukrainian Russians. But I thought that Russia shouldn't have gone into Donbass or whatever. I thought that was still part of Ukraine. But how can it be part of Ukraine if even these people, the Western Ukrainians, don't consider them as Ukrainians because they can't pronounce a word right? And people there, you can hear, and this is what I implore. Oh, let's have a quick look to what happened to this girl. So she got kidnapped first. She gets kidnapped by these pieces of shit, and they joke around about tying her up to a pole. Let's tie her up to the pole and paint her terrorizing the girl, right? So if I'm hoping you're watching the videos from the other side. I'm hoping you've seen the hundreds of videos of people being tied up to poles, adults and kids painted with green paint as orcs. And the excuse that the West gives is these people stole stuff. No, these people are just like this girl. They pronounced the word wrong.
В Инстаграме подписано как Валерия Сергеева. Приехала с Чанска в Днепр, нас встретили люди, за что я очень сильно им благодарна. Общалась в прямом эфире со знакомым за то, что чтобы в Лисичанск зашло ЛНР, за что очень сильно раскаиваюсь, извините меня, пожалуйста. Наговорила очень слишком много лишнего. Спасибо ЗСУ, то, что он нас защищает.
Okay. So that's what's happening. And whether you think that all these citizens of these towns that the Russians have gone into, whether you think all the Ukrainian soldiers that have surrendered and are given interviews, and there's like tens, if not hundreds of them now, of them giving interviews and telling about the crimes that the Ukrainians have done, the Ukrainian army has done. Even if you think that behind every one of these videos, there's a Russian soldier pointing a gun to their head and telling them to say what to do, the fact is that it's happening the opposite way. This girl has a gun pointed to her head, saying thank you for the Ukrainian armed forces. But even if you think their stories are false or Russian propaganda, I implore you to watch all of them. Watch the other side. And I told Johnny FC this. Go and see what the other side has to say. You can probably go to Mariupol now and speak to people over there. I think the Russians, if you get in touch with the or whatever it is, I don't even know how you start getting there, but I think you can get in. You've got enough of a following to make an impact, and I will accept whatever truth you discover over there. But if you really love Ukrainians, go look at the other side of Ukraine. Go look at the Ukrainians over there. But I don't think that he will, because he likes his nice little apartment in Kiev. Now, he's got one in Kharkiv as well, so maybe the Russians will give that one to him once they take Kharkiv over. But if he goes over to like Mariupol, and if he goes to eastern Ukraine, and the interviews that he does don't match up with the narrative that the West has, that Kiev has, if he's not outright killed or treated like this girl or tied up to a pole and painted like, dehumanized and painted like an orc, because that's what they wanted to do. You just heard in this video them say this. I'll play it again. She's not a thief. Let's tie her to the pole and spill green paint on her. Right? Right? If you... I'm half crying whenever I do videos, honestly. If he goes over there and the narrative is wrong, he'll get the full experience of what Ukraine is becoming. And we'll see what happens. We'll see once that EU membership disappears, the prospect of the EU membership disappears, once or the EU starts pushing liberal ideas to the fascists that I believe have already taken control. Like Zelensky, if before he was a puppet, now the hand is completely up his asshole. He's completely, as far as I'm concerned, completely taken over by the fascists there. All this, like, they're waiting. They're still using him. They still want to use him because they want the weapons from the West and the support from the West. But once the West starts pushing, like, these are Nazis. Like, they don't like gays. They don't like immigrants. They don't want their country flooded with immigrants, like the EU wants to do with Poland and Hungary and all these places. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens to all the Ukrainian refugees in Poland once their husbands join them from the war, or once Bandera's birthday rolls around. So that's what's happening. Again, watch both sides. That's all I have to say. And I'm very thankful that Johnny FC has showed us whether, unconsciously he left this part in, whether he sees this as a joke or something like that, whether he did it, maybe he did this consciously at some level, maybe he understands on some level. I'm thankful that this video exists now and that it's getting so many views, and it's going to get even more views than it has now, to show you what's happening there, to give you a glimpse, a small glimpse that is so avoided by Western media. Thank you guys, and all the best.